In October 2022, I had just got broken up with by one of my clients. And this was the third client that had left in that month. I was running a marketing agency at the time. And to be completely honest, I was struggling to really grow. I was struggling to really find a way to generate clients consistently. I was struggling to find a way to really get excited about what I was doing. I felt like everything was really a grind, a hustle, and I didn't necessarily enjoy what I was doing. But at the time, I was like, this is the best I got. I'm just going to keep rolling with this. But I just lost the third client that month, and my bank account was close to hitting zero. And a couple of weeks later, I actually hit, I think it was my last $1,000 at the time in my bank account. And rent was due a couple of weeks later. And I was like, okay, this is something that keeps happening. This keeps happening. No matter how much I sign clients or whatever the case is, I tend to just lose it all, or it just goes, it just disappears. And I was like, this is just weird. It's like a reoccurring pattern that keeps happening. And I'm not even sure what the money was going on. It's not like I was going off and buying expensive things or just going on these random trips. Now, of course, I was traveling at the time, but I was living in Lisbon, right? I was living in Lisbon, Portugal. My rent and everything was the only thing I really had to pay for, and gym membership. So it's not like I was going off, clubbing every weekend. So it was an interesting thing. I was like, where's this money going? And I had the goal of hitting my first 10K a month. Like that was the goal I was working towards. I wanted to build a six-figure agency. I wanted to do that and then figure out where to go from there. And I had kind of ticked off the goal of like, okay, well, now I'm out of Ireland. I'm traveling. I'm doing these things. I want to be able to grow this. But I kept hitting zero. But what I felt was like this need and this like attachment to this goal, right? This like intense energetic charge that was attached to this goal of hitting 10K a month. So subconsciously, because I felt like this like weird energy towards it, I felt like I just wasn't good enough. I felt like I wasn't able to actually achieve that. But logically, I was like, no, I can do it. Like I believe in myself. I can do it. I'm just going to follow this process. I'm going to keep pushing, keep taking action, to keep doing all the things that these courses tell me to do. I'm going to keep growing. But it just didn't happen. Like it just did not happen. Like no matter what I did, it just wouldn't click. It wouldn't click. And at that point, I had bought, I don't know, like 4 or 5 different agency courses. I had bought all of these like programs on online marketing and even affiliate marketing as well. So it's to see if I could learn some funnel strategies from that. I would look everywhere when it came to like marketing tactics and strategies. And all of these things were for me to grow my business and to also to help my clients grow their business. And that was the main aim of all of it. And then I came across this guy on YouTube, and I was watching these videos on personal development and identity shifting, and I was like, okay, well, this sounds interesting. Like, what even is this? And I would dive into it. I would go through all the content. I was hooked. I was hooked on personal development content. And it actually took me a while to actually get into personal development content. Funny enough, a lot of people like start off there, and for sure, I binged it when I was watching it for sure. But I didn't get started in that realm. Like I was aware of Bob Proctor. Um, I was very closely listening to his content, but I never went down the rabbit hole of like following all these different YouTubers on these different things. But I came across this one YouTuber. His name was Clark Kegley, a big YouTuber. He still has a great channel, like fantastic channel. And I came across this concept of identity shifting. So I went down that rabbit hole, and I was like, okay, well, where is this gonna go? Like, what even is this journey that is identity shifting or identity? What does that even mean? Like, who is the identity? Like, what is this? I was just asking all these questions, and I got to the point where I was kind of just like, okay, my current self is out of alignment with this goal that I want to create. Right, this 10K a month, this 20K a month, 30K a month, these goals I had like lined up, these milestones I wanted to hit, was just felt out of reach. And the reason why I came to the conclusion after really studying this and going through programs and getting coaching on these areas was that my current self was out of alignment with that. But that was like a big statement. And I was like, okay, well, what does that even mean? Well, I was like, okay, well, let's go deeper. I started to realize that my mindset, like how I was viewing myself, how I was viewing the world, how I was viewing myself within the world, I had no understanding of that. I just thought that I'm a human being and I'm not really sure why I'm here, but all I want to do is travel, make money online. Sounds exciting, sounds cool. And then I can go off and I can live a life of freedom. That's like the thing I attached onto. So I was like, okay, that's my anchor point. Let's go and create that. So I ticked the box of travel, but I was trying to do the financial side of things. So when I started to realize that like my thoughts and my beliefs and all these things that were stopping me, things that were holding me back, my current self, my current identity was out of alignment. I was like, okay, well, how do I fix that? And it reminded me again of like, okay, well, why is my bank account hitting zero? Like, I want this goal. Aren't you supposed to set goals, and aren't you supposed to just achieve the goals in a certain time frame? And that's what you do. You set a date and then you know you achieve it. And I would keep setting a date and keep pushing out the date, and it just would never happen. And if anything, I would go backwards, you know? So as I went deeper into this identity shifting, personal development, mindset way of looking at things, I was aware and I started to get hooked. I felt like I had just unlocked something, which was, first of all, just a genuine interest of mine. But secondly, I felt like I had found something that was going to be important for the rest of my life. That's how I felt. Now, interestingly enough, what I do right now is all of those areas. I coach guys one to one, and in a group setting in these key areas to help them make the internal shift so that they can see the external results that they want. But at that time, I wasn't doing that. But I felt this feeling of like this being really important, like not just for myself, but for like my life. It was like this profound feeling of like, I just unlocked something. I've just walked into a temple and I was meant to be here. That's what I felt like, which is interesting to look back on now. But the reason I mention all of this is because when I look at those times where I was out of alignment, or my mindset, my beliefs, and my thoughts were all working against me per se for this income goal I wanted to create for myself, I realized that, yeah, it was coming from an identity level. It was who I was identifying as. I wasn't identifying as the entrepreneur who makes 6 figures a year. I was identifying as the guy who travels, who's trying to grow a business and seeing if it kind of works out. Completely different identity. I think a lot of the time, and I've noticed this myself and with clients as well, a lot of the time we think that we have to operate within our current self to be able to progress. But 99% of the time, if not all the time, we have to look at where is it that I want to go and who must I be to be able to bring that into reality. So the identity for me was completely out of alignment. And when I kind of uncovered that and discovered that, I was like, okay, well, how do I design this identity? And that's the whole like that whole journey I went on. And that uncovered a whole lot of stuff, you know, like trauma and healing that I had to do within my family, and uncovering more about what that means. But really, it was about identifying the limiting beliefs and the thoughts and the patterns that were just forcing me to really create a reality that was just this continuous loop of my bank account going to zero, trying really hard, making a little bit of progress and then falling all the way backwards again, and just keep recreating that pattern. My beliefs that I was holding were I wasn't good enough. My beliefs that I was holding were I'm not worthy of financial abundance. And those stories that I was telling myself about my family that I had to heal and all these different things just backed up those beliefs every single time. Because I didn't grow up in a family where we had a lot of money. Money was like a constant struggle. And I was constantly reminded about that all the time growing up, that we couldn't do this or we couldn't do that, or, you know, you got to be careful of this, and overspending here and doing this, and having this really negative emotion attached to all of the times where money was brought up, right? So it was like this really dense negative charge. And that was like the main thing that was stopping me from actually being able to hit this goal. So I had to completely reprogram my subconscious mind. And that required me to, go into kind of a state of like just every moment I got throughout the day, I would remind myself of my vision. I would listen to my own affirmations. I would say affirmations. I would do the energy work of like raising up my energetic state and working out and going to the gym and jumping up and down every day, and saying I'm going to do 20 push-ups and then going off and doing 30, and then say I'm going to do 30 and then do 40, and do those things to like reprogram like who I was. And I was like the guy who was over delivering to himself. I was like the guy who was, always would push that little bit harder, and I'm the guy who can accomplish anything. I'm the guy who is abundant because abundance is everywhere. And I would reaffirm this to myself over and over and over again. And I'm telling you, for the first 8 months, I did not believe a word of what I was saying. I did not believe a word of it. But there was pockets where I would, and there was something that was happening around me that I started to notice. Because what happens with, and this is now something I understand at a much deeper level, because obviously this is the thing that I help guys with now, but we have this part of our mind, which is our reticular activating system, the RAS. And it's this thing that will always confirm your beliefs around you, right? Everything that we're experiencing within reality is being decoded by our mind, and everything exists simultaneously. Scarcity exists the same way abundance exists. It's just that which one are you going to focus on? If you're focused on, and you've been programmed to believe that scarcity is the default state of being for you, or everything is in a lack, or everything there's a limited amount of things, subconsciously, if that's what you believe, then your reticular activating system will show you reasons why you are 100% correct in your reality. Which means that even if there is opportunities where you're seeing abundance, or abundance is clear, it's right in front of you, you will not see it. So I had to go off and reprogram that part of my mind continuously over time, using the systems, the processes, the tools that I now implement with clients to help them do the same thing. And this was such an interesting journey, because as I started to do that, not only did my bank account increase, but I was able to just retain the money, and I was able to stack my bank account with, like savings, and I could make proper investments, and I was investing in crypto, and I was investing in the stock market, and I had this bank account of savings, and things just started to pile up. I wasn't like subconsciously trying to get rid of it anymore. And it was like this super interesting process, because in the time where I was doing that, and I'm still continuing to do all of this, it's not something I ever stopped doing, but in that time in the beginning where I was getting up and running with these types of practices, I would feel so much resistance. I wouldn't necessarily 100% believe it, but I could see that it was going to become a reality, because I just trusted that if I keep doing this, I can change my reality. And that was just a faith that I had, because I think sometimes when you're in those stages where you are encompassing on a journey that is very new to you, and you're trying to create a new version of yourself, like all you can really have is faith. I didn't have a lot of proof behind me to be able to back this up, but the more that you do it, the more that you find proof. Because the beautiful thing about this is that my reticular activating system, that part of my mind, it started to find reasons to prove me right. So I would see small wins, small changes, small synchronicities in my bank account, in my clients I was attracting, in the content I was putting out, the responses I was getting, and all of these subtle things would keep reaffirming to me that I was on the right track. And as I started to find those reasons, I found that as the proof, and the proof then was feeded back into the flywheel that was forming new beliefs within me. So it's a really interesting process to reprogram your mind. And the beautiful thing about all of this is that I really discovered that you can be very playful with your beliefs. And right now I see things from a state of like, okay, well, what would I need to believe to have this outcome in life? What would I need to believe to live this type of life? And that's where you can kind of get playful with it, because now I know the power of how it works and how to implement it. So it's like, okay, well, Now that I can sit down and be like, well, this is the kind of life that I want, and this is the type of money I want to make, and this is the impact I want to have, people I want to help. What's the belief I need to have for that to be true? And then from there, it's like, okay, well, how do I want to be? How do I want to show up as? What frequency do I want to hold? What energetic state do I want to operate from? And that's where you truly start to tap into like creating your reality. That's really what the term means. But it all comes back to that journey of self mastery. Because the journey of self mastery is mastering your mind, is mastering your emotions, is mastering your internal state of being, so that your internal state reflects into the external world around you. It's a really interesting process. So, to come back to the original story of my bank account like hitting zero continuously, it was because I just kept reaffirming the fact that there was a lack of in my life, the fact that everything was a challenge and there was no opportunity for growth. I didn't see it as that. It was just a challenge and everything was poor me. The world is against me. Things are hard, you know. I can't make this work. See, I told you I couldn't make it work because my bank account's going to zero. I would keep choosing to reaffirm the reality that I was experiencing. But the real lesson and the real opportunity for growth here is to understand that we have to think bigger than our current reality. We have to think bigger. We have to be completely and utterly delusional in the reality that we want to create and take a step back and be like, okay, well, what do I need to believe for that reality to become true? And that requires a lot of responsibility. That requires you to step into a whole new version of yourself because there's a lot of uncertainty there. The rug of your beliefs that you've been, standing on for a long time is going to be pulled from beneath you. And that's a scary place to be. Scary place to be, but it's required because when you pull that rug, you allow yourself to free fall. And free falling can be scary, but it can be leading you to the place where you want to be, especially if you have that clear direction and purpose, that life compass that's going to be guiding you based on your intention. When you know where you're going, you can allow yourself to free fall into that. And then the journey of self mastery you do as you free fall. Try not to latch on to too many different things, or if anything, latching onto the beliefs that are going to serve you. So it's interesting to see how that can play out in your life because the only reason that my bank account kept hitting zero or I wasn't able to create the income that I wanted was because I kept reaffirming that reality to myself. We underestimate the power of our mind, and it can work against us a lot of the time until we make the decision, the committed decision to master ourselves, master our emotions, our frequency, our energy, our mindset. And when we do that, we put ourselves on a trajectory that is going to change the course of our life forever because, I've done it, I've seen it, and I will continue to do it, and you can get playful with it, and that's where the fun begins. So it's an interesting journey, and I wanted to share it with you today because you underestimate the power of yourself sometimes. You have the capacity to do so much more. You have the capacity to be so much more as well. But a lot of the time we just keep reaffirming and overthinking what's happening around us and taking everything around us as truth, where we have to think bigger than our current environment. So that's all for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. What's going on for you? Do you have any thoughts or ideas or stories that are coming up for you? Drop them in the comments below. I would love to hear them. This has been Jordan, sending you love. I'll chat to you soon.